he's their best player though.
Why?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Why?
Yes, he's the best player. Yes, he
Why
is.
is he the
Yes,
best
he's the best player. Yes, Donovan Mitchell's their best player.
Because he's
Why?
their
Because
best
he is.
player.
I don't know.
He's better
why,
than Darius Garland.
Okay, no,
That's
why?
not
No,
even a
why?
discussion.
How? I don't know why I keep saying why. How?
So he's their best scorer. He's their best play. He's their best scorer. He's their best playmaker. I think
No, he's not. No, whoa.
Let's
Darius
Garland.
So you're gonna act like you really think Darius Garland's better than Donovan Mitchell?
No, I didn't say that.
Who's that?
He said best playmaker.
I did say he was their best playmaker. And the reason why I say he's their best playmaker because he's as a scorer, he requires more attention. I think he gets downhill. I think he finds guys better than what Darius Garland does.
Huh?
Especially
I just disagree. I disagree.
In transition. I think Evan Mobley's their best defender. I won't argue that. He's their best rebounder. But on the offensive side of the basketball, what Donovan Mitchell brings to this unit, I think is more than anybody else
Which player is
that they
impacting
have.
their offense more?
And on top of that, on defense, I think he's, with the exception of Isaac Okoro, I think Donovan Mitchell is one of their better perimeter defenders.
He's a better POA defender this year than Dean Wade?
Yes, I think so.
He's better on the perimeter than Evan Mobley.
I think Evan Mobley's their best defensive player. I won't that part. I won't argue.
You just talking about the guards.
He's also better on the perimeter than Donovan Mitchell too, right?
One more time.
He's also better on the perimeter than Donovan Mitchell as well.
He's their best defensive player. Period.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean he's the best at everything. Like as a core, is a better perimeter defender than Evan Mobley.
Well, and I just want to be clear about this. And again, I know
Evan Mobley's also a better perimeter defender than Donovan Mitchell.
Everyone. I know. Cover your ears, Ox. You're not gonna like this point, which I respect. Ox, I do. I think this Darius Garland is of all their players is the most impactful offensive player they have on their roster, like of their starters.
What is that? Is that net rating stuff?
Yeah, but just to clean the glass stuff, like Darius Garland is like he's the straw that stirs the drink. Ox, if that makes sense. I'm not saying he's outright better than Donovan Mitchell, but in terms of why their offense, it's like going crazy. Darius has been crazy this year, bro. I'm not saying he's been a player.
Donovan Mitchell is the cup. So would you rather have a straw to start a drink, or would you have a cup to put the drink in?
I mean, how big is the cup?
It's what do you mean? It don't matter how big it is. If you don't got the cup, you don't got a drink.
But I can use a straw on any size cup, though.
Yeah, but
Swap, who's the Cavs' best player
this year?
Yeah.
Every year it's Donovan Mitchell.
I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. I'm so moved by Evan Mobley this year.
And next year is gonna be Donovan Mitchell as well.
Chill was right. Evan Mobley's been crazy this year, dog.
To say that Isaac Okoro is better at chasing around screens. I think Evan Mobley, he's just as good as moving his feet. But I think that when you get further away from the basket, I think guys like Isaac Okoro, Donovan Mitchell, I think that they're a little bit better. I think Evan Mobley's better in different spaces on the perimeter. However, he's overall, I think they're better. I think he's their best defender. But when we're talking about
one of the 5 best defenders in the league, right?
But Evan Mobley?
Mm-hmm.
I think so. Yes.
Okay.
I think so.
I do want you guys to know that Donovan Mitchell is purposely taking his foot off the pedal for the embetterment of the team.
The sacrifice thing. Yeah, we've had this conversation.
Like that goes into being a leader. That goes into being a star player. Well, some star players have to actually turn it up. Some people got to not bring it down a notch. So he's not playing at the typical Donovan Mitchell level that we're accustomed to. So I do want you guys to know.
He's playing like Donovan Mitchell. He just has the ball in his hands. That's what it is. And this is why I keep saying, like, I'm gonna keep saying it until like it gets through to people. The box score is not entirely indicating of how good someone is. Donovan Mitchell, and you're alluding to it, Ron, but like you're saying it is in terms of like Donovan Mitchell's not playing as good as he has in previous years because of like he's sacrificing. No, he's playing as good as he normally does. He just has the ball less.
So if that's the case, why are you guys even pushing back?
But because Evan Mobley has taken a major leap as a player. Major leap.
He has.
So I'm thinking Evan Mobley as one of the 5 best defenders in the sport, in my opinion, one of the 3 best defenders in the sport. So from an impact standpoint defensively, he's providing elite value in a way that no one is matching on his roster, offensively or defensively. No one on the Cavs roster is top 3 on either side of the ball like Evan Mobley is. But then I would say offense is still individually more valuable than defense. So a top 10 offensive player can still be more valuable than the top 3 defensive player. That's how you get to the point where Rudy Gobert was obviously never a top 10 player in the NBA. But then when you factor in Evan Mobley's defense with the offensive ascension he's taken, being more of a ball handler, running pick and rolls, being his touches have gone up majorly, being excellent around the rim. He's shooting a really good percentage from 3 this year.
43.
He's still not a floor spacer in the sense that teams are running him off the line. Typically.
But he makes you pay if you go on.
But he does make you, he does make you
He
pay.
was killing the Lakers the other night. He made like
and
3 in a row.
You still got the extra passing that Evan Mobley provides. So I'm factoring in a top 3 defender in the sport, a major offensive jump, extreme versatility on both sides of the ball, and then like pretty much any impact metric you want to go to paints Evan Mobley as a really good player. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the impact metrics. I'm not saying he's better because of impact metrics. I actually don't know if he's above Donovan Mitchell in most impact metrics. He might be. But when I'm looking at everything, it's hard for me to be like, yeah, Donovan Mitchell's their best player, like definitively. Like Evan Mobley's been great.
Even if Donovan Mitchell isn't their best player definitively, a lot of the stuff that Evan Mobley is doing on the offensive side of the ball is a direct result of what Donovan Mitchell does. Is a direct result of what Donovan Mitchell does and what Darius Garland does, because they're I think they're the best pick and dive team in the league. Well, one of the main reasons why they're one of the best pick and dive teams in the league is because being able to get the ball to Evan Mobley when he dives to the basket. Also, he's one of the better pick and pop bigs in the game. He's become that this year. Well, if I can't get him the basketball to produce that, then it doesn't make any difference how good he's popping on the wing. It doesn't make any difference how good he's diving to the basket. Now, the Cavs also are one of the better transition teams in the league. And the reason why they one of the better transition teams in the league is because of Donovan Mitchell's ability when he's passing in transition to Dean Wade. He's getting the ball to Jared Allen, who's primarily a rim runner who plays around the rim. That's really effective. And I'm not going to argue that Darius Garland doesn't do that. But I think that Donovan Mitchell, coupled in with all the stuff that he does as a bucket getter offensively, you add that stuff into what he does and what he does on the perimeter as a defender and shooting gaps and getting himself in passing lanes. I think he's been fantastic. And I think he's their best player. I don't think it's definitive, but I do think he's their best player.
Donovan Mitchell has been fantastic. I'm not taken away from like this is more. I want to make it clear. This is less me diminishing the intention. I'll say the intention behind what I'm saying is less me diminishing Donovan Mitchell
and big enough Evan Mobley.
I'm more so trying to uplift Evan Mobley. I think the biggest turnaround for the Cavs has not been Donovan Mitchell continuing to be Donovan Mitchell. I think it has been Evan Mobley taking a major leap and Kenny Atkinson using him based off of that. If you look at last year, for example, and you compare like how they played, like Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland were averaging like 80 touches a game. This year, like it seems to be more egalitarian in terms of touches. Now, like all 3 of them, Evan Mobley, Donovan Mitchell, and Darius Garland, are around 60 touches a game. And we're seeing their offense take off. Like they're now number 1 in the league in offense, I believe. Donovan Mitchell is still really good. Darius Garland has been really good. Swipe has been alluding to that offensively. And the thing that makes the Cavs so dangerous, like they stagger, like you have Darius Garland and Jared Allen pretty much match each other's minutes. Like they're pretty much always on the court together. And Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley are pretty much always on the court together. And they're able to maintain elite offense and defense with that because Darius Garland can floor raise an offense by himself.
Also,
and so can
but then they're also pairing Donovan Mitchell, even off the bench, with shooting. And when you have an interior presence with either Jared or Evan Mobley, and then you give him Karis LeVert and either George Niang, they basically become like near indomitable. Like their 2-man net ratings this year are all chill, blowing everybody out of the water because offensively their ceiling is so high with every unit that Kenny Atkinson is putting on the court. Because at the very worst, you're getting Ty Jerome and Donovan Mitchell, or Darius Garland, Karis LeVert, Sam Merrill, Dean Wade, and then you're going to get Evan Mobley and or Jared Allen in one of those lineups. And they have constant spacing around elite rim running, and they have 3 guards that can all drive, throw the lob, or kick out to the sides, and they all can penetrate. Ty Jerome's the worst penetrator. But Darius Garland is sneakily been like an elite driver this year because his ball handling shield has been so good that he's basically creating space on every action that he wants. So
Moss brought something really interesting to me when he said, "Chill, can you give me 5 league guards in the game that are better ball handlers than Darius Garland?" And I thought about after Kyrie Irving, it gets real tricky.
I hate to step in and interrupt this intense yap session that you're currently watching, But I just have to inform you on all the amazing, spectacular, fabulous, endless ways to play and win over at Prize Picks. Basketball fans, I know the season is just tipping off. Yes, I know this. But you know what that means? It means that you have an opportunity to pick your favorite players and their matchups that are the most thrilling, and you can win money from these. With Prize Picks, you can play daily NBA contests and test your hoop knowledge by choosing the player projections in every single stat line imaginable to make your Prize Picks and take home some nice hard-earned cash. Are you a rookie in the game? Don't even sweat it. I got the playbook for you right here. All you have to do is download Prize Picks, use promo code PANEL, and you will get $50 instantly when you play 5 here with Prize Picks. So what are you waiting for? Download Prize Picks, use promo code PANEL, and join me as we break down all of our amazing daily picks right here on the panel. Prize Picks. Run your game, control your game, win your game. It's easy, baby. It's easy.
It
Yo,
gets
but
real.
he's
but,
ridiculous.
but
He's
chill
ridiculous.
though. But chill. We talking about who's the best player on the Cavs team or the most important player. And I respect Darius Garland's ball handling. I respect
do too.
his passing
I think
ability.
it's Donovan Mitchell.
He has got back to himself 2 years ago, and he's playing at a great level. He's really matured. But Swiper keeps trying to throw Darius Garland in there like he has a horse in the race.
I'm not making the case for Garland. I'm making the case for Mobley.
I heard what you said, Morris. Swiper has thrown his name out there 4 or 5 times.
I said Evan Mobley earlier, by the way.
I think Swiper's point is just about the offense and how
Which is their most important skill
maybe
set.
Donovan Mitchell's getting a bit too much credit for their offense.
No.
Okay,
I
and maybe
don't
Evan
wanna say
Mobley's
that.
getting a little too much credit for their defense. Can we talk about Jared Allen just a little bit?
Jared Allen's been great.
Eensy beensy bit.
I didn't mean Swiper. I didn't mean you were saying like Donovan Mitchell's overrated. I think like you were saying like it's more than just Donovan Mitchell's contributions as to why their offense is as good as it is. And it seems like, and this is like a common thing. It's like when a team is really good, their best players seem to get given like a lion's share of the credit for how good the team is. And it's like I don't think that's always the case. And just an interesting observation. Once again, net ratings and on-off differentials are extremely flawed. Extremely flawed. There's different lineups, etc. But I do think it's interesting that of their big four, their 4-man combination, their only lineup that is a negative of any substantial minutes is the lineup with all three of the big four on and Evan Mobley off the floor. That's the only one that's a negative. Every other combination, you got Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley, major positive. Darius Garland and Jarrett Allen without the other two, major positive. Donovan Mitchell and Jarrett Allen without the other two, major positive. The only one that's a negative is when all three of them are on the floor and Evan Mobley's off the floor and they have a minus 12.5 net rating. That's the only one that's a negative. Now, I'm not saying, that's proof that Evan Mobley's the most valuable. No. But I'm saying, like, when that's the only one that's a negative, that's interesting. That's what I'm saying. It's interesting. Sure. And I would ask why you think that is. I would say probably small sample is a part of it. But I also just think Kenny Atkinson has put Evan Mobley in a position where I think he's more valuable than I think you guys are giving him credit for. Maybe he's not better than Donovan Mitchell. I'm perfectly fine with that.
I also want to say, I don't think
it's just I don't think there's a hierarchy where Donovan Mitchell's clearly the best and everyone else is battling for second, third, and fourth. I think we're at a point where in terms of game-to-game impact, Evan Mobley might be their most
chill. Detroit Pistons, when they had 4 All-Stars, were a very similar concept. So I think that they have built a infrastructure that is less reliant on one singularity, and that's also made them much better. And I also will say this,
I don't know about that, Swipe.
Which part?
Because the part about them having a similar structure, because their offense wasn't nearly as good as what's going on.
No, I'm talking about in terms of their value. Detroit was a defensive.
Now, when you value in them, sure, but I don't think offensively they were nearly what the Cavs.
No, Detroit had a defensive infrastructure, but the problem is Chauncey Billups, Rip Hamilton, Rasheed Wallace, and Ben Wallace. They all had their own individual contributions, which made them all-star level players.
And Wallace is like
who?
Is he like
Jared Allen?
Jared Allen.
Yeah, but just even better, which obviously is crazy. Right. But I'll say this too. There's something about. I think Jordy Fernandez and Kenny Atkinson have been 2 of the examples. There is something to sitting on the bench as a secondary option as a coach for the last several seasons or few seasons, learning the game, figuring out what you want to do without actually having to do it on a game-by-game basis, listening to another head coach, and then on top of that, being able to soak in information from Malone, from Mike Brown, Kenny Atkinson, where he was, and then stepping into a head coaching position, because I think they have both modernized their personnels to so well that they're both vastly outperforming their preseason expectations. So I actually think Kenny Atkinson and Jordy Fernandez come to mind yesterday when they beat the Bucks. I think both of them deserve huge credit for what they've done this year.
And Mars, this kind of logic right here is the reason why when you bring up guys like Mike D'Antoni, I want to jump through my kitchen window. I swear to God, because it makes me nuts. Because we got coaches on benches that are damn good, and we keep recycling these other coaches and keep bringing these other coaches back around when we got some damn good assistant coaches
Mike D'Antoni,
who are not
Mike D'Antoni is on the Pelicans advisory board. He's not about to coach.
If you let Mars tell it, let's get Mike D'Antoni out of retirement. I think that
I like Mike D'Antoni as a coach, but
I did like him as that part I won't argue. What I'm saying is to Swiper's point, we have plenty of coaches on benches in the NBA who are damn good, who are not getting opportunities to coach to be head coaches.
Jerry Stackhouse.
Because we keep recycling.
Jerry Stackhouse will be a head coach soon, bro.
Because we keep recycling these other coaches. We keep recycling these coaches in the NBA. When in reality, we got a bunch of coaches on benches. Kenny Atkinson is a prime example of that.
But Kenny Atkinson was the head coach before that.
Yeah, he was in Brooklyn. He was in Brooklyn and he got the shaft.
Yeah, but that happens. And Kenny Atkinson actually could have been a head coach before, and he took the Warriors assistant job one more time. I guess he probably didn't like that job. But to the credit, like we also got some assistant coaches that become head coaches that's trash. Like some people are just good assistants. Like Steven Silas is a horrible head coach. Probably a good assistant, horrible head coach though.
Yeah.
So that happens.
Well, two things can be true. Two things can be true. Yeah, two things can be true.
To Swiper's point about Jerry Stackhouse, he will for sure be a head coach. You just got to go through the ropes. He just coming from college.
What happened to David Fizdale? Why did he get the
not a good head coach? Because he's not a good head coach.
Didn't they do well for one season?
1 year. They did 1 year, and they sucked ass the last couple of years. Then he got fired.
He took that.
Wasn't a good head coach. He
was good. I remember him in Memphis. I don't think he was awful, but
I think Darvin Ham was an okay coach. I know people are gonna talk about it, but Darvin Ham had good success, and like I agree with him. If he was somebody else, he probably would be getting an extension for the things that he did. Yeah. But he was in LA, so that shit hurts. But
that's what Charles Barkley was alluding to. He basically said Darvin Ham did a good job. He said Frank Vogel did a good job, and he said now JJ Redick is basically there as a scapegoat. And he basically was like the Lakers suck. He said you could put Lakers on the pig.
And Mars, back to your point, Mars. I mean, it might not be definitive, but I think Donovan Mitchell is the best player on that team. That doesn't devalue what Evan Mobley is. You know how I feel about Evan Mobley. I think that Evan Mobley was the defensive player of the year before the season started, off the strength of everything that I thought that he brought to the team defensively. Add that to the fact that he's gotten even better as an offensive player and a scorer. I mean, I feel like that makes them so much better. Now, what I will tell you is I still think they're a year away from winning it, though. I do. I don't think they're there yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough to beat Boston. But yeah, I also want to make it because this is already going to be, I can understand, this is already going to be clipped. It's going to have me making an argument for Mobley, and people are going to think I think Mobley is better than Donovan Mitchell. I'm just making the argument that it could be Evan Mobley. That's why I'm not making an argument. That it's not, like you said, it's not definitively Donovan Mitchell. And if I were to make the argument for someone else, it would be Evan Mobley, because I think those two are comparable. That's all I'm doing. I'm not saying Evan Mobley is better than Donovan Mitchell. I'm saying Evan Mobley could be better than Donovan Mitchell. Like, I would have the conversation about it. That's what I'm doing. I've already accepted that this is going to be clipped to make it seem like I'm saying Evan Mobley.
I think Donovan Mitchell is the best player on the
JD
team.
would never do that.
But what Evan Mobley is,
I would.
Okay.
But there's no reason to. I think we're having this is a very authentic basketball discussion. I think all of them are contributing in their own way to why this team is at the top of the Eastern Conference and why they can win the title. And I think that's what's best. Like, they don't have a Tatum level player right now or an SGA level player. I think Donovan Mitchell is the closest approximation, but I think like they have spread out their wealth.
What about addition by subtraction? You don't think they got that?
Who?
What do you mean?
I'm talking about the Cavaliers. Like they spreading that wealth all the way around. They might not need.
Well, what did they subtract? Yeah, what did they subtract?
No, I don't know. I was just bringing that up because Norman.
Are you talking about Bickerstaff? Bickerstaff, maybe? I mean, they subtracted Bickerstaff.
Who was a good
coach,
coach, by the way.
Yeah, but he said no headbands. So, you know,
I think the Cavs winning can do one of two things. It will either, and the one is more likely than the other, but I think it will do either. It will elevate Donovan Mitchell to a standard that he's really just not at, respectfully, where people will start calling him one of like the 5 or 6 best players in the league, one of the best 2 guards ever, blah, blah, blah. Or it will get people to finally realize the idea of can this guy be the best player on a championship team is just outdated. Like you can win with just a really good team without having this premier S tier player.
But
Like,
what if Donovan Mitchell is a guy that can win as the best player on the team?
Hold on.
Remember I said on Playback, they would have him as a top 5 player. If he does.
Like the Cavs can win this year, and Donovan Mitchell is more than likely their best player. It's either him or Evan Mobley. Like, that's fine. And if they win, in my opinion, it makes a lot more sense to say the best player on the team that wins a championship isn't as important as people think than it would be to say Donovan Mitchell is on the caliber of player as the Jokic and Steph and Jan. Like one makes a lot more sense than the other. But because if they win, people will just be like, oh my God, Donovan Mitchell, he's this good because he won doing this, blah, blah. It's like, no, Donovan Mitchell is Donovan Mitchell. It's just the team is
now.
Mars, you do know he typically takes his game to another level in the playoffs, though. Too.
No, Ron,
typically is a stretch. Occasionally he does.
In their deep playoff runs, for the most last year he did.
It's up and down. It's up and down.
Playoff run are you referencing, my brother?
Because the year before he didn't. So it's up and down.
Peace be with you, brother. What deep playoff run are you referencing?
22 was not. 23 was not. Last year was. Like it's up and down with Donovan Mitchell. He's an up and down player.
But to counter your point, Mars, I mean, wouldn't the Cavs this year, as good as Donovan Mitchell would be, because I can appreciate your logic about if they would have won the NBA championship, is Donovan Mitchell a top 5 2 guard all time? No, I can appreciate that. But wouldn't the Cavs be now the exception, very much like the Detroit Pistons were with Chauncey Billups, to Swiper's point, in terms of that kind of team? Like we weren't talking about Chauncey Billups as a top 5 point guard all time when he won the Finals MVP. We weren't doing that. And the reason why we weren't doing that,
we didn't say Tatum was a top 5 small forward.
And I would argue Tatum is also that exception, but some people have catapulted Tatum into like conversations he's probably not.
Yeah, Tatum wasn't.
And I don't have him in conversations like that yet, neither, because I don't feel like he's there yet. But I feel like with this Cleveland Cavaliers team, I think that they may be the exception, very much like the Detroit Pistons were. But previous to that, you did have S-tier players when you win the NBA championship. I don't think
that makes them exception. I think, and this is the issue when you view the game in like the historically, yes, the S-tier players tended to win because the individual was, in my opinion, more important than the overall roster construction. Especially when you go back to eras, especially like the isolation era in the 90s and the early 2000s, individuals were more important because A, role players weren't as good, and B, because of the way the game was designed, you needed that elite isolationist to win. In today's game, like the last 5 years, in my opinion, since the James Harden Houston Rockets, since that team, and every team has now bought into the analytics, has bought into the versatility and roster construction. Now the best player is less important than before, in my opinion. So 25 years ago, I agree. I think the best player being able to win with this guy's your best player made more sense. You needed a Shaq, you needed a Tim Duncan, you needed a Kobe Bryant, etc. That made sense. Now, with the way the game is, I think the roster construction is more important than how good your actual best player is. I think you can win with a great roster and a Devin Booker or a Donovan Mitchell or a Jason Tatum. I know Jason Tatum's better than those guys.
Even with that being said, though,
Mars, you can win with a Shea without Shea being the best player in the world.
But even with that being said, it's because like even when you look at the Celtics, and I'll do the same thing with the Cavs. You got Jason Tatum, but Jaylen Brown's right there. You know, like you can say he's below, but I mean he outplayed him in the playoffs last year. And then you got Porzingis, then you got Holiday, then you got you guys' favorite guy, Derek White. Same thing with the Cavs. They got 4 players that are positives that are up here. I get what you're saying, but it's
outweighs the main individual, but historically,
I think Mars is right.
Larry Bird and the Celtics, or Magic Johnson and the Lakers, or MJ and the Bulls.
But the difference
that was fine. I just don't think that applies to today. But we keep doing it.
But it does, though.
Historically, it did. But now things change, and I don't think the same standard has to apply throughout all of NBA history.
That is fair, Mars. But it has, because since you talked about the Rockets in 2019, that was Leonard. In 2020, it was James.
But Kawhi wasn't the best player in the world, though.
But he was in the conversation afterwards, and he could have been.
Yeah, but he was in the conversation afterwards because he won.
And
yeah, that's what I said.
He was top 5 though. Yeah. He was close. He was close enough to the top.
Yeah, and that's like Kawhi is different to like a Donovan Mitchell, and I'm not saying he's not.
I get what you're saying though.
I'm saying winning puts it puts the individual in a conversation that they wouldn't otherwise be in if it weren't for the winning. But Toronto won for more reasons than just what Kawhi did. Kawhi was an excellent scorer in that postseason, and they needed him because of how good he was, especially as an isolation scorer. It goes back to like the 90s and 2000s. But that was an extremely elite defensive team with and without Kawhi. Like,
Mars, are you suggesting?
So I'm saying the individual isn't as important as the overall roster construction is. That's what I'm saying.
I want you to keep going, Mars. Are you suggesting that Kawhi Leonard, previous to them winning the NBA championship, wasn't an S tier player?
He wasn't.
That's not what he said.
Mars, I get Mars. This is what I'm saying.
I'm saying this is where you asked 80% of people who was the best player in the NBA in 2019. They say Kawhi Leonard. The reason they say Kawhi Leonard is because they won. That's why they say it.
I get that part.
But I don't think that's true.
And I don't think it is neither. Right. I don't think it is neither. However, and I get your point. Where the pushback comes with me when you talk about you don't need that player because of recent history. But previous to them winning the NBA championship, Kawhi Leonard was still playing at an S tier level.
Okay.
James was an S tier player in 2020. Giannis, before he won the NBA championship, was an S tier player. Curry was an S tier player. Joker, previous to him winning, was an S tier player. The Celtics, I don't think Jason Tatum is there yet. At that, I think that they're putting him in conversations where he shouldn't be yet. The Cavaliers, if they were to win the NBA championship, would be the exception, very much like the Detroit Pistons were. But there were still previous champions, previous to this, that had players who were S-tier players. And that's all. I get your point 100%, the way rosters are constructed today, because they're constructed more for teams to win and for players to play off of other players and still be great. However, I still think that S-tier player was around previous to this. But I do get your point.
Isn't that the reason why a lot of people aren't high on Cleveland? Is because they don't technically
No.
Actually, I think that's wrong. And I think
what I think, Mars, and I feel like we've been coming to this place for a while now. And I think even Ox would probably agree with this at this point, based on some of the stuff Ox has said previously. We are moving into an iteration now. I think because of sheer 3-point volume, because of analytics, because of the CBA, because of the second apron especially, where it is no longer, if this was traditional basketball, Ron, or back in the day, Jokic and Giannis every year would basically be contending for titles every single year. And then because the rosters would be, I think the NBA has purposely flattened the rosters, meaning if you got a perennial like top end talent, because of the pay scale now, it's going to be so much more difficult to build up a unit of 7 to 8 players that are all championship level role players or contributors consistently when you have those kind of players. And I think SGA and the Thunder, they moved into that level because SGA, I think the timeline just matched up. You know, he was ascending. They got a bunch of draft picks. They get Chet Holmgren, J-Dub. They trade for Caruso. They get Isaiah Hartenstein. They have all these players on the roster. But then SGA is a superstar. So it all catches up. And I think Boston had JB and JT, but then they managed to somehow get JT, JB, Drew Holiday, Derek White. Kristaps Porzingis was very similar to the Kyrie trade. Super low value for an all-star level player. And then you put them in the roster. And I think if you just go kind of where the NBA is headed, Ron, I truly think Mars is 100% right. Because I have talked about this in other places as well. I think it's going to be damn near impossible in this CBA agreement, y'all, to win a championship if you don't play the math game. You got to have shot making and top end talent for sure, but you got to play the math game. You got to have a bunch of defenders, and you got to have basically a unit of 7 to 8 guys that are guaranteed in your rotation. These are damn near starting level players.
Yep.
Elite coaching system,
and you got to have team chemistry. Y'all got to have that,
and you got to have crazy chemistry. And I think Boston, Cleveland, the Thunder. I think next year it's going to be somebody else in there.
Hold on. So I throw the Nuggets in there too.
I think the Nuggets. The problem with the Nuggets is they're slowly getting
the Nuggets in there.
They're slowly getting there. But the Mavericks are in there, Ron. The Mavericks are there.
Yeah, but Mavericks with Luka being hurt, it's going. With Luka being hurt, it's going to derail a lot of their stuff because now he has to play back into shape again. And I've seen that happen before, where at the time of the season when a player like that gets hurt and you know, you coming back, and it's like Michael Jordan when he was with the Bulls, they got their swept by the Magic. Like, you coming back, and y'all been playing well, but you just don't got it right now.
They lost in 6. They didn't get swept. They lost in 6. But keep going.
My bad. Yeah, you're right. Swept. My bad.
keep going.
Hey, chill. I misspoke. Like you misspoke.
There you go. You hadn't lied.
Yeah,
you didn't say that deliberately. You just
you
might have forgot. Yeah, you might have forgot.
Yeah.
You also go ahead, finish your point, Jordan. And
but
then
I
we'll
was just saying, like, as far as like with the Nuggets, like, man, the Nuggets started off rocky, bro. I'm telling y'all, bro. Later on, after the All-Star break, you're gonna see the Nuggets, like, it's gonna look ugly. Like, they one of them teams that's gonna look like some of their stuff is gonna look ugly. But when you play them in the playoffs, you're gonna realize, like, shit, we've been doubting.
If they're healthy, for sure.
And to your point, Swiper, those teams that you talked about, those 7-8 guys, and because of what the CBA is, a lot of that stuff is going to be built through the draft. You're going to have to draft correctly.
But you got to draft high. It feels like, chill.
Which I mean, that's what happened. The reason why the Warriors got Steph Curry, because they sucked. The reason why they got Harrison Barnes, because they were garbage. The reason why they got Klay Thompson, because they suck.
I mean, they got Steph Curry because Minnesota Timberwolves were stupid, but whatever.
They still suck. So two things can be
true.
They
took Johnny Flynn and Ricky Rubio,
but that doesn't take away from the fact that they suck.
Rubio?
The point is that you also
respect
have to get
Johnny
lucky.
Flynn.
And the point is that you also have to get lucky. I mean, they stole Draymond in the second round, so you have to draft correctly. Because considering, to your point, what the CBA is, gone are the days of jumping on units like James did and putting together Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh and Paul Pierce, Rondo, Ray Allen, and Kevin Garnett. Those days are over. That's done. That's not happening anymore. If you're going to build championship teams, it's going to be primarily through the draft, and you're going to have to develop your guys. So I think over the next couple of years, we're going to see these GMs, how much better they are and who's not good as a GM.